And this is part 3 of the Ma'amar Bayom Avahoya Bayom Ahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol, which explains what is Rosh HaShanna and what is the commandment of sounding the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and how that connects to the shofar which will be sounded from heaven in the days of the Messiah, to gather all of the Jews, to wake up all the Jews, and to gather them all to the Holy Land, or as it says in the sentence, to gather them all to Har HaKodesh, the Holy Mountain in Jerusalem. And the Rebbe explained to us that shofar implies pleasure, that God gets pleasure from His creation, especially from human beings, especially from Jews, when they do what He wants. And that's one of the reasons the Jews are called the chosen people, because they give God pleasure in the creation of the world. God creates the world constantly, every instant, every detail, but He creates it for a reason, namely that we should return some of this energy, some of this gifts, this love that He's giving to us. And when we do that, as God gets pleasure, and even though it's a very difficult, or let's say an impossible idea to understand, but nevertheless we see the results are that there are a Jewish people in the world, and they do take a shofar every year, and they do believe that God commanded us to do it. And even more, we're the only people in the world that do it. We're the only ones that even celebrate this holiday of Rosh HaShanna, which is the day that man was created, the 6th day of creation. And we celebrate it by doing what man was created to do, namely to return energy to the Creator, to announce to the world there is a Creator, the Creator is good, and the Creator of the universe actually gets pleasure from what we do, as we explained in the previous 2 sections. Okay, now let's go further. Yuv and Zeh, we can understand this behektem, by preceding Mashikatuv, what it says, Zeh ayom techilat maasecha. This is the day of the beginning of your actions. We say this on Rosh Hashanah. It's part of the what they call the Nusach. It's part of the liturgy, the sentences that we say on Rosh Hashanah, the prayers of Rosh Hashanah. Now, the prayers of Rosh Hashanah were written by what's called the men of the Great Assembly. The men of the Great Assembly, this included also the prophet Daniel and Mordechai and the great people that lived in the beginning of the Second Temple. Beginning of the Second Temple, which was about 2,500 years ago, which is about 500 years before the people who wrote the great men who wrote the Mishnah and the Gemara, which it says about them, the Tanaim, that the smallest of them actually had the power to raise the dead. There's a story in the Gemara of Avodah Zarah which talks about it. To raise the dead. The idea was not so much to raise the dead, because there's a purpose for people dying, and they didn't want to interfere with this purpose too much, even though they did it occasionally. But these men had the deepest secrets in creation. And one of them is they installed it in part of what they said was, they wanted us to say, this is the day of the beginning of your action, God. This is the day that God, you began to create the world. Rosh Hashanah, we're celebrating the creation of the world. Zikaron liyom harishon. It is a remembrance for the first day. This is the day that you created the world. It is a remembrance for the first day. Which that doesn't seem to really make any sense. We'll see. Because if this really is the day, this is not the day that God created the world. This is 5,776 years after God created the world. This is not the day. Not only that, it doesn't even commemorate the day. Zichron liyom harishon. It is a remembrance for the first day that God created the world. Or the first day that God created the world was really 6 days before. Rosh Hashanah is the day that God created man. So it doesn't seem to make sense, this sentence. But they understood what they were doing. We don't understand what they were doing, but we will now. Listen. Yadua adiuk b'zeh. It is known the implication of this. B'derushim, in the Maimorim, in the discourses of the previous Rebbes. Now they're trying to explain something to us about reality, that we don't really understand what's going on in this world. And if we do understand, then we'll have a big, proper picture of what's going on. Shelicha'ora, yesh kan stira. At first glance, there seems to be a big contradiction here. Miresha the sefer, from the beginning of the sentence to the end of the sentence. The techila that in the beginning it says, Zeh hayom techilas masecha. This is the day of the beginning of your creation. Techila mamish. This is the beginning of the creation. Hainu shebakol Rosh HaShanna, that Rosh HaShanna, every single Rosh HaShanna and Rosh HaShanna, Zeh hayom, this is the day. Who? This is hatchalas, the beginning. Hithavut, the creation. Ha'olamot, of the worlds. Michadash mamash, from nothing. Now again, remember that we say on Rosh Hashanah that what did God create? He created everything. Not just this physical world. He created everything that there is. The heavens and the earth, like it says in the beginning of the Torah, the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens are the spiritual worlds. God is not spiritual. He creates the spiritual. From the spiritual, we can get an idea of how little we understand about God. But God creates the spiritual. When did he start creating the spiritual? On Rosh Hashanah, right? Wrong. We'll see. And afterwards, Omer, it says, Zikaron li'Omer Rishon. This is just a remembrance for the first day. Just reminds us, Shayom Rosh Hashanah, this day of Rosh Hashanah, whose Zikaron, it is only a remembrance. Bilavad, for the first day. And on the first day, Shabo Nivra Olam, that the world was created, namely 5,700 and in a few days, 76 years ago. So is this really the day that God created the world, or is it just a remembrance for the day? We'll see. But Yuvan said this will be understood, behektem, diuk hayadua, by preceding another implication from a sentence which is a known one, which is brought in Drushim Achirim. Hari B'kaf Hey Elul, in the 25th day of Elul, Nivra Olam, the world was created. 6 days before man was created. But Rosh Hashanah is only Yom Vav, is only the 6th day of Maaseh Bereshis, of creation. V'heich Omrim, how can we say Ala Yom Rosh Hashanah, the day of Rosh Hashanah, Shu Techilas Maaseh, that this is the beginning of your deeds? Not only is it not the beginning, it's not even commemorating the beginning. Rosh Hashanah is the day that God created man, not the day he created the world. V'nekuda tabior, but the summation, the summation of the explanations of the Rebbes is like this. Is that Rosh Hashanah the day God created the world, or that he finished creating the world? Damash and Nivra b'Rosh Hashanah, that what was created on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Yuchad b'Shana, this special day of the year, the big day, day of judgment, who be'ikr is mainly al Brias Adam, on the creation of man. Ubadam, and man, Gufa itself, al Briat Nafsho, on his soul. Now we know, and it's pointed out in the Tanya, in the 2nd chapter, that man was created a little bit differently than all of the other animals. All the other animals were created together with their soul. The man, the animals, with the plants, with the birds, with the fish, they were all created together with their souls. Man was created with a soul. He was created man. And then after that it says that God blew into his nostrils a living soul. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. He blew into his soul, into his nose, a living soul. In other words, man was created with a soul, and that God blew another type of a soul into his nose. He installed another type of soul. Ubafrat al Yuridat Vishta Itlabshut, and especially, that's what happened on Rosh HaShanna, especially on the Yuridat Vitlabshut, the descent and the clothing of one's soul, big gufo, in the body, hagashmi, physical. Vayipach bapav, it says that God blew into his nostrils, begufo agashmi, to his physical nostrils, nishmas chayim, a living soul. So what is this living soul? A soul is a spiritual thing. Soul is spiritual. Man was created alive. He already had a spiritual soul. All souls are spiritual. Even a dog's soul is spiritual. A cat's soul is spiritual. Man had a special, man's human soul. It was a spiritual soul. And afterwards, God added to this soul, immediately afterwards, he added another soul, a living soul, which this living soul is not spiritual, it is godly. A spiritual, what's the difference? Spiritual is part of the creation, spiritual creation. But the godly soul is part of the Creator. This is joining together Hakatzei Hachi Elyon, the highest possible level of reality, Im Hakatzei Hachi Tachton, with the lowest level of reality. You know, in Judaism, after a person dies, it says that he goes to the Olam HaEmet. He goes to the true world. He goes to the true world. There's a story in the Gemara, in the Talmud, that one of the Amoraim, his son passed away. His little boy passed away, and he cried, and he wept that he should come back. So he came back, and he said, "What did you see up there in heaven?" Came back to life, and he said, "I saw a world that's upside down. Upside down. Up there, what's not important here, humble people, low people, suffering, that up there is very important. And down here, what's important, where success is not important." So he said, you saw a true world. Olam emet, kashut. You saw a true world. A person goes to heaven, he sees a true world. See a true world. Why? Because the spiritual, you can see a little bit more clearly. There's less egotism, less selfishness that covers us over in the spiritual worlds. But those spiritual worlds are also a big lie. It's just a set of glasses that we can see a little bit the falseness of this world. But we can't really see the truth. The truth can really only be attained in this physical world, because in this physical world we have a godly soul. And this godly soul appears here. That's why here in this physical world was the holy temple. Here is going to be Moshiach. Here will be the raising of the dead. Because this physical world, and one good deed in this physical world, is more important than all the upper worlds. That's what it means. He saw an opposite world up there. That this is Masha Nefesh, that the soul, Hasheni, the second soul of the Jews, who Chelek Elokam Yimal, it is a part of God, Mamash, something like the holy temple. Every Jew is a holy temple. God is revealed in the essence of his soul. The problem is, of course, in the holy temple doesn't have to respond. The holy temple doesn't have free choice. A human being does have free choice. So a person can decide to go to the holy temple or not. But if a person has godly soul revealed inside of himself, so he's got no choice already, then he's already stuck with it. He must make the choice to listen to this godly soul or not to listen to it, to search for it or not to. But it's bothering him. It's there from the time of Adam. V'yadua perish kavod kedushas morichami. It's known the explanation of the first Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, Morichami, my teacher, my father-in-law. This is the Rebbe who's writing this. Shekavan hahosaf. Why does it say a part of God? It's a chelik, a part, eloka, of God, mimal, from above, mamash, really. Okay, this word mamash means really what? It means really a part of God from above, or it means it's a part of God from above, mamash, that's real in this physical world. We'll see. This word mamash has two inyanim, two opposite implications. Echad, one of them is that shetebas mamash, this word mamash, kai, refers al chelik elokam yimal, that it is a portion of God from above, really. Hainu shukiviyachol chelik me'atzmu, so it is part of God's essence, mahus. As we'll explain more in the next installment.